this video has been compressed. Is that a bad thing? What do we mean when we talk about video compression?
So video compression is an essential part of the way of life these days. We couldn't deliver uncompressed 1080p to your home because it would be huge. I mean, terabytes of information per hour.
Yeah, but I could watch TV all day long and Comcast doesn't kick me off, even though I'm probably pushing more data or pulling more data than I would on an internet connection that they want to cap me on. Sorry, I realize it's another video to do. But the basics, though, of video compression.
So the basic of video compression is not everything is constantly moving. And
like these are not moving.
Right. But you move.
Right.
So in this particular video, the information about the display behind you doesn't need to change. So video compression works by breaking an image into lots of little blocks and then saying, has anything changed between this block and the previous block? And if nothing has changed, you say, just use the block from the last image in this image. Everything will be just fine. Or you'll say, most everything in that block's the same, but these couple of things changed. Then as video compression got even better, we got to the point that we did what's called motion vector analysis. And we said, my hand was over here, now my hand's over here. Take all of the blocks from over here and move them at this rate of frames per second or blocks per second towards over here. And that's how video compression works, is it literally says what didn't change and what's changed that we can just say it moved to over here.
So then why do some videos look more blocky than others? Too compressed?
So if you over compress something, what happens is you start saying this is going to be close enough because we don't have enough time to tell you all of the differences or enough data budget to tell you all of the differences that changed. Or you lie in order to get things to the point that things don't change between frames. So you can noise reduce to the point that there's no texture left in the back of your chair.
Yeah, no, that's happened before.
Right, and what happens is it looks totally smooth because if I say this is totally smooth, I don't have to spend as much data on it, and in the next frame when you wiggle just a little bit, all of those blocks will look the same because the texture was about the only thing you would have perceived the motion in. The other thing that can happen is that you change the accuracy of the motion. So you say, yeah, it's supposed to be over here, but because of the compression, some of the parts of the hand are slightly over, and you end up with this tearing or this smudging.
Yeah.
One of the ones that bothers me the most is Comcast and RCN, and a lot of people will compress the video, and what will happen is like your hair will stay put, and your face will move. So you'll be talking, and your hair will be totally staying put, and your face moves.
It took me years to perfect that, though. Are you saying you don't like when that happens?
No.
On TV?
No, on TV it looks like the people stuck their head through one of the things at the fair where, it's the rest of the picture and their mouth just moves, and that's because it was over compressed.
Why did they do that?
You've got to hit that budget in order to get as many signals onto the wire as possible. So Comcast has a set amount of data budget, and if they want to deliver 300 channels instead of 100 channels, each of those channels has to be compressed 3 times as much.
Oh.
And so,
even if I don't want to watch like half the channels?
Right, because they're going to push the data to you whether you want it to, or not, or they have to push the data to somewhere whether you want it or not.
But wait a minute, why don't they cap that?
Well, because it's push. There's no request. Everybody's getting it. It's quote-unquote multicast. Think about, let's do an example of DirecTV and satellite. You've got this satellite up in space, and you've got to push a signal up to the satellite. So you only get so much that you can push up to the satellite. And the people on the other end are going to tune to the different channels that are coming from it.
Right.
But the limitation that you have is how much data you can push to the satellite. Once it's at the satellite, everybody's getting beamed. Right now, at this very moment, even though you don't have DirecTV, you are receiving all of the signals for all of the channels.
Really?
Yeah, they're penetrating through. It's like radio. Right now, you aren't listening to any radio station,
Right,
but
but I'm
all
being
of the
bombarded.
signals are there. Comcast is doing the same thing. They have a cable, and on that cable is all of the channels that they're offering.
Right.
And they're all being beamed all the time, and you change what the selector is.
So then, in terms of compression, have you seen better compression in satellite data transmissions, the video transmissions specifically, versus cable transmissions?
Well, so that's all a function of which codec you use and how much bit budget you give everything. If you're using MPEG-2, which the old satellites used to use, and DirecTV still uses some of that, the compression is about half as good as MPEG-4, which is what most of the television stations use now.
How can you tell?
You can't.
Oh. Could you look at something and say, oh yeah, that's MPEG-4?
I worked on the H.264 specification, so I can, but normal people can't look at it and say.
Is it like determined by a pixel somewhere, or?
It's determined by what things are happening in the video. I can see certain types of artifacts that are only in H.264 or are only in MPEG-2, and normal people.
So this is like your superpower. If you were like a superhero, I can detect H.264 video. I'm H.264 man.
That was Jake and I's
MPEG-4 man.
That was Jake and I's job at Microsoft. Was
to watch videos and go, yep, that's MPEG-4.
And not too far off of that. Our job was to look at what.
I wondered what was going on with that company. Now it all makes sense.
So this is totally off topic, but Jake and I used to work at Microsoft, and
It's not off topic because we're talking about the basics of video compression and the conversations around it. So
our job at Microsoft was to teach engineers about the basics of video compression, and we had a Media Encoding Resource Lab for IPTV Networks, Merlin.
Okay.
And what we did was we created test videos so that we could push video through and say, what does this video codec, what does this video encoder do when we do that, and how does our player play it back? And is it right every place along the way? And if it's not right every place along the way, who dropped the ball? What's wrong with it? And so we'd come up with videos that were weird, strange, whatever, to see how we could push the encoder to say, yes, when we have 1 million raindrops falling, this encoder breaks. It can't handle that. Or our player says, hey, there's too much motion information. I can't handle this. You got to back it off because I'm going to crash. And that was what we did.
And what came of that?
Microsoft launched Microsoft Media Room, which powers AT&T Uverse and BT's equivalent of AT&T Uverse and a whole bunch of French Telecom and